Hey everyone. So today we're going to make probably the most complicated, biggest piece in our new kit line with Weaver Leather. These are all-inclusive kits. They come with everything you need to make it. This is going to be a bifold. And we're going to do some customizations to it. We spent a long time making sure that these were extremely customizable, from cutting your own pocket shapes to tooling to printing to whatever you want to do. So we're going to dig into this kit, show you what's included, and then we're going to get right into how we're going to customize it. So in the kit, you're going to get printed instructions. This has what you can do before, what you can do after you assemble it, and then on the back it's a full guide, just no words, just visual, on how to assemble this wallet kit. You're also going to get a cloth bag. This is going to have all of your leather pieces in it, right? Since this is a bifold, we have all of our pockets, we have our interior and exterior shell. And then you're going to get a peripheral pouch, and this is going to have all the little things that you need. You are going to probably need a pair of scissors and a lighter, or you can just tie knots, but we have, this is Ritza tiger thread, some sandpaper to finish your edges. We did a little card. It's a how to backstitch and how to saddle stitch, one on each side. And then of course 2 saddler's needles, which are right here. So we're going to customize the front shell of our wallet, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to use a linoleum block that I carved, and we're actually going to print with ink onto the front here. Now our design is going to be a smaller version of a shirt that we make, that we sell at local craft fairs. It's just, we live on Cape Cod, so it's just a guy in a canoe doing his Cape Cod thing. That's why I have a smaller version here. I think that would be really cool to do as a print on the front of the leather. So on top of showing you how to put these kits together, we're going to show you how to do a little bit of block printing on leather. So a couple things. I waited a while to show you this technique because I wanted to make sure that it works. Now this is my personal bag. I've used this every day for a little over 4 years now, and this is the same ink that I used. The other thing you're going to see is this is the same leather. So it gets much darker with use because it's a natural veg tan. So you're going to see me printing a little bit lighter. It's not going to be very contrasty when the wallet's new, but the reason is, if you look at how nice this looks now with the dark leather and the white print, I think we're going to go like a light blue. That's the reason that I'm printing a little bit lighter. Third, you can see the way that we're going to do this. I like it to look a little rustic. This does not chip. It does, and I use this every single day. I throw it on in and out of my truck, in and out of the workshop. It's in my bike basket with me. It goes everywhere with me, and there's no chipping. This is all, I kind of put it down quick, pulled it up quick, so it looked like it was worn. And it's held up, man, I'll tell you, way better than I ever could have expected. This is it's a really, really nice technique to get a very unique look. So this is what we're aiming for, and we'll probably oil this wallet after to get a little darker and make that print pop. But let's get into how we're going to print this. So what you'll need to do this is you'll need a block print, or a linoleum block. I carved this one myself. This is a whole other thing. There's plenty of videos. I just use YouTube videos to learn. You just want to make sure it's backwards. You want to make sure it's scaled to fit whatever you want to block print. You're going to need your leather. Since this is natural veg, it works really well. If you're not using one of the kits and you want to try this, just be careful on oily leathers because the oils are going to affect how the ink sticks. Now, what are we using for ink? I'm just going to use, this is Speedball fabric block printing ink. So it's kind of a 3 things in one, right? It's block printing ink, it's 4 fabrics, so it's kind of almost more like a screen print ink. It holds up really, really well. This is what we print our t-shirts with as well. You can also mix a little bit of actual block printing ink in there if you want. And then we're just going to need a brayer roller, and I just use a palette knife to mix the inks if you're going to be mixing up some custom colors. So I just have a little piece of cardboard here. I'm going to start by mixing my color. I'm going to use a white base. And you're going to notice this is a little bit different than regular block printing if you're block printing on fabric. I'm going to do this a little more chunky because, like I said, I want it to kind of look a little more rough and tumble, you know, like it's already been a little bit aged. I'm going to do a tiny bit of blue. And then to gray it down a little bit, I'm going to use just a little tiny bit of black. And if you use black to gray things down with this ink specifically, you just want to use a little, like a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. And we can go through and adjust it. So then we're going to take our palette knife and we're just going to mix this up. And you can see where the blue is, how it's very like sort of a royal blue, and I'm looking for more of like a sort of a foggy beachy blue. And on camera it might just look white, but in person it's just a little hint of blue. There we go. See? So start with a little bit because you're going to be adding, it's kind of an additive process, and then you'll eventually get it dialed in, and that's pretty much exactly what I want. This is straying away from, if I had my choice, everything would be a black shadow with an ivory print, but I want to go a little different today. So, nice blue-gray color, a little beachy, a little foggy. Next step, I'm going to just get some paper towels and we're going to load our block with ink. So the way we're going to roll this out, I'm going to kind of scrape everything off, and cardboard isn't the best for this. If you have like a little plastic tray or something, that's better, but cardboard does work. I'm going to put all my ink at the top here, maybe spread it out just a little bit, because we're basically going to take our brayer and we're going to pull down, and we want to load our brayer. And like I said, I'm going to be loading this heavier than you would for an actual block print, because I want this texture in my final look. Right, so you see how you have these peaks here? That's what I'm personally looking for. And then I'm going to go over to my block, and I'm going to roll this on the block. All right, so now it's test time, or print time. Now, if you've never done this before, do some test prints. Give yourself a tube and some scrap leather, print it all up. I think this is going to come out good. Remember, we're looking for it to look a little messed up and janky. That's what we're going for. So I'm going to just lay this down sort of by eye, like that. And then I've washed off my brayer. Ideally you have two, I can't find my other one. And we're just going to lightly roll this with our brayer onto our leather to make sure that we're getting most of the ink. Remember, since we laid this on chunky, we're going to get more of a rustic look, which is the goal, right? Now we're ready to pull it off. Let's see what we got. So to add a little bit of contrast, I'm going to give something a go here that I actually haven't even done, but I have just white, some of the white ink, and a Q-tip. And I want this to look real campy. So I'm going to go in, and I'm just going to trace through the Cape Cod with the Q-tip. And now that we have this nice and painted in, it looks nice and campy. I'm going to put this outside in direct sun, and it's going to do two things. It's going to harden off this this ink, which could take 2 or 3 days depending on what time of year it is and stuff. We also want to get this nice and dark, this leather, and I'm going to show you once this is done, we're going to actually age this down so it looks kind of old before we put it all together. So while that's drying, we're going to assemble the interior of our wallet. Now remember, this comes with everything you need to just put it together, but we were really, really careful to make sure that you can customize this in a lot of different ways. One of the big ways is we made all of the pockets straight cut. Now if you go onto the Weaver's website, there's going to be a downloadable file that you can get a bunch of different pocket shapes in a pattern. You print it out on the computer and you can just trace those. The other thing you can do is you can make custom stuff. So because we're kind of going for something that you looked at that looks like it was made at summer camp, I'm going to use just something I have in the shop, and this is actually really cool. So this is just an old center punch set, but check this out. This is a circular, like lathe. Someone did this on a lathe, or maybe it was done by a machine, but like they don't make them like this anymore. This is a good curve though. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just eyeball this. I have a little scratch all here. You could do a pencil or a you could use like a nail, and I'm just going to do a little curve. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it as centered as I can, because remember, we want these all to be a little bit different. We want them to look like it was made at summer camp. And I'm going to do the opposite curve to kind of blend that in. And then I'm going to cut this one out and I'm going to trace this onto the rest of my pockets. So I have a number 2 X-Acto blade here, and I'm just going to carefully cut this curve out of my pocket. There we go. Now I'm going to go back and use my scratch awl or little nail or whatever you have to transfer this line onto all of the other pockets in the kit. Okay, so it's been a few days. Now, if you're using this speedball ink, it takes a few days to cure. It's even just a little bit soft now, but we want to get this done and out. So we'll see what happens. But if we go back to the other bag, this stuff, once it's hard, once it's cured, it's going nowhere. This is 4 years old. So you do have to give it some curing time. It does depend on, I usually put it outside. In the summer, it'll cure in a day. But it's, you know, it's November, it's been raining for the last week. So we're just gonna go with it. So I'm gonna use, to make this look a little bit more old, I'm gonna use some liquid mink oil. And this is gonna darken the leather. And you can leave it out in the sun a bit more too. We just happened to get a week of rain. So I'm gonna go pretty liberal with this. And as I apply this, you're gonna see why I went with lighter colors. You see how now this print really pops. And this is good. We don't have any ink, so I think we're good. And if some comes off, that's okay, because that's what I'm going for with this project. If you want a crystal clear print from your block of linoleum, you want to make sure you give this plenty of time to dry. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to do 3 or 4 coats of this. We don't want it to soak all the way through, but we want a fair amount of mink oil on this piece. While this is drying, I'm going to go in and I'm going to oil the interior too. Now you don't have to do this. It's actually kind of cool sometimes. If you leave the interior totally natural and you dye the outside, when you're using it, you'll get that nice contrast and you'll be able to see, wow, this used to be the same leather, but now the outside is very dark and you can see how the natural looks. But I'm going to oil this now because it's not fully put together yet, so we can sneak in and oil inside the pockets as well. So again, just liquid mink oil. And don't be afraid to put too much of this stuff on. I wouldn't dunk it in a tank or anything, but if you're just using paper towels or a rag, if you're going to use paper towels, make sure you get like the fancier ones that they're more like towels. Because if you get the cheaper ones, nothing wrong with cheap paper towels, but when you're applying mink oil, they can kind of like rip up fairly easily. So I tend to get I have like 1 roll of the fancier, expensive ones to do oiling like this, because the paper towels don't fall apart. And because we're going kind of campy on this, and we want to make it look a little beat up, I'm not going to worry about any unevenness. I'm actually going to maybe try to selectively oil like something like this, get some little spots in there. It'll make it look like it's already been aged a little bit. And I think I'm going to do 1 coat on the inside, and then we'll do a couple of more coats on the outside so that it will be a little bit darker. Now once this is the oil's dry, we're going to do one more thing that I wasn't planning on doing, but I want to try it. Because like I said, this might not totally be cured yet, we just didn't have enough time. It might kind of get a little wonky, but we're going to give it a go. There is a way that you can age down leather either more without using any dyes. If we go back to this bag, you could see the difference between these 2 leathers. This is very matte, and this is nice and shiny. The reason this is shiny is because just like we burnished the sides, the front of this bag has been burnished. The outsides have all been burnished from use over the years. We can actually recreate this using the canvas bag that comes in the kit with a little bit of water. So we're going to try that, and it brings out it brings out depth and dimension to the leather. It's roughly the right shade, but we don't have that dimension yet. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just my same paper towel, a little bit of water, and I'm going to dampen this down. Now, you might want to do this before you oil it, but if you get a good burnish on leather and then try to oil it, you're actually sealing up the pores, so it's not going to the oil's not going to go into the leather well. So that's why I always oil before I do this. And this is going to be an adventure. We'll see. Once we're damp, I have my canvas bag, and you're going to just rub it just like you would burnish the edges. And I hope on camera it is starting to do it. It'll shine up really nice. And we can see we're getting a little bit of color, but nothing bad, so I think we might be good here. And it shines up, it gets light, a little bit more deep. And you do want to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of selectively focus on the edges, because that, on a regular wallet wear pattern, that's where we're going to see a whole bunch of wear. And we're getting shiny here. Okay. So I think we're getting a little bit of shine. I don't want to go too far. Then I'm just going to hit it one more time with a little bit more mink oil, because we did get a little bit of the ink that's not totally dry yet. And that mink oil will just hopefully clear that up a little bit. Yep, there we go. And I think we're going to leave it at that. Once everything's dry, we're ready to assemble everything. Now, if you go kind of heavy on your decoration on the exterior shell, you might get some staining on the inside, which is totally normal. We have an expansion pack for a few bucks, and it comes with an interior liner. So it's like a little half liner, a little less, third liner. And what that does is it's going to cover up the fiber so that when you put the wallet together, all you see is just the grain of the leather. And it also comes with an exterior pocket. So you put this on the outside, and it's for your most used card. I'm not going to use this because I like, this whole wallet is supposed to look in the end like it's been used for a few years. So I like that this is stained because things get beat up and we want to see that. So what we have to do now is just sew across the top of this. Okay, so for final assembly, I've said this a couple times, but I want to reiterate. If you want to glue all this down, go for it. Gluing's great. I just want to show you that this whole thing can be put together without any glue. So we need to stitch this to this. Now, you'll notice that the interior is a ½ inch shorter than the exterior, and the exterior has this gap here. That's because as we put these together and we fold them up, we need to have that little bit of extra room so the wallet can close. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew one side, then we're going to sew the other side. So I'm just going to start, I mean, you can start with whatever side. I usually start with, I put the interior of the wallet down, face down, and then the exterior of the wallet up, and I start with the, looking at it would be the right side. So once we have this all put together, all we have to do is take care of the edges. The kit comes with some sandpaper, and I'm just going to sand down all these edges. And if you're going for like a beat up look, you could do some cool stuff. You could kind of leave them a little ragged to make it look like it's been used for a while. You could also take your sandpaper and kind of bevel the edge. Be careful you don't want to scratch up this leather, or if you're going for a beat up look, maybe you do want a couple scuffs in there, you know? But you could kind of hit it at like a 45 if you don't have any beveling tools, and kind of round over that edge on each side. And I'm not going to go too crazy with this because, you know, like I said, I want it to look like something that was made at a summer camp or something. And I think we're getting there. And I like that. I think if we go back in and put a little more oil in. There. And so the next thing we're going to do is just burnish these. So to burnish, we're just going to take some water, put it on the edges. And then the canvas bag comes with the kit. We're just going to rub back and forth like this, and you'll see the edges sort of start to darken up. And you can, I think with the kind of this design, I'm probably going to try to go a little bit more hard to get them a little darker. And you can see kind of, because we beveled, the color is going to come over a little bit, so you'll see it when you're just looking straight on at the front of the, or the back of the wallet, or the inside of the wallet. And so that's what I'm going to do on this one, I think. we have all that set, here we go. This is our linoleum block printed front. Nice kind of age down inside. I didn't go too heavy on it. You could, of course, you could dye it black or you could dye it brown and then maybe do some black along the outside. You could, you know, hit it with a hammer or drag it on the ground or whatever to make it look older. I just wanted to make it look like something that you would make at summer camp maybe, or, you know, something like that. And of course, this is our new bifold kit with Weaver. Comes with everything you need, everything we talked through before. You get your leather, your needles, your thread, sandpaper, cloth bag, all that good stuff. And just remember, it's going to be the Speedball block printing ink for fabric. That's the stuff that I confirmed that I've had on my, well, I have a mixture of that and some screen printing ink, but I'm pretty sure this stuff works just as well. It works on t-shirts too. It's great for t-shirts. So give it a go. Just be careful with the linoleum carving tools. I'm not an expert on that. Watch some YouTube videos before you use those, because they'll take some chunks out of your fingers. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll see you in the next one.